Hello everybody, and welcome to the first ever Fan Art Friday on the channel. While I create a lot of original art, there are certainly days where I just need to get a piece of fan art out of my system. So the plan I have for the channel is to dedicate the last Friday of every month to a fan art piece that I create. Which brings me to the pieces featured in the first ever Fan Art Friday episode. It is none other than Fred and George Weasley from the Harry Potter series. And oddly enough, their birthday falls on Easter Sunday this year, which is also April Fool's Day. So happy birthday, Fred and George. And also a happy birthday to Vincent Van Gogh, the day that this video is going up, which is March 30th. And for those of you who are familiar with Vincent Van Gogh's work, I'm sure that you have picked up on the fact that I am taking some inspiration from his pieces and his impressionistic style with the background in particular. I had been wanting to do a tribute piece for Van Gogh because he is one of my favorite artists of all time, and actually I got to see Starry Night in person when I went on a trip with my university to New York City a few years back. Insert picture here. It was such a thrill to see that piece in person, as well as many others that we had talked about in our art history classes, and I'd love to go back there someday. I had the idea to do Weasley portraits in the style of Van Gogh for a while now, but I just couldn't decide on who I wanted to use in the portraits. Then out of nowhere, light bulb, and I suddenly remembered George losing his ear in Deathly Hallows Part 1. And it was at that moment that I knew I had to use Fred and George for the portraits. While working on these two pieces, I looked more into Van Gogh's life and history, and it's really just sad to see how much he did suffer. And I haven't had the chance yet, but I am just dying to see Loving Vincent, which is the world's first entirely painted movie. And it's just so interesting to think that someone came up with this idea where it's not animation. Each frame in this movie is a painting. From what I saw in the trailer for the movie, it just looks absolutely stunning, and I hope to get my hands on it someday soon here. Now on to a touchier subject. As you can tell, there was no drawing portion to this video. And there's a big reason for that, and that is George was being difficult. My first attempt at drawing the twins, I was really looking more at photo references, and I was trying to do photorealistic versions of them, and I was looking at Van Gogh's self-portraits as well, and I was just stressing myself too much out with trying to match the two, and I lost my own style in the process, and I ended up starting completely over. When I decided to start over, I started drawing Fred, and that second time I just hit the right balance between using reference and just letting my own style come naturally. The same cannot be said for George. It took me about 4 or 5 tries, not exaggerating here, to get him right, because yes, they are twins, and I wanted them to look pretty similar, but it was just not turning out right. But one thing I am not is a quitter, so I just stuck to my guns and kept going until George just fell into place and I finally hit the right notes like I did with Fred. And I am really happy that I decided to start over because the end result is a lot better, and I couldn't be happier with how these two turned out. And I promise I do work in other mediums besides acrylic paint. It's just that this has been my favorite medium to work with as of late, and I am having a lot of fun experimenting and playing around with different techniques. Okay, enough of all that. Let's get to the real important part of this video. Which Hogwarts house are you in? So when I was growing up and reading the series for the first time, I had always wanted to be in Gryffindor with Harry, Hermione, Ron, and all those other wonderful characters. But Pottermore has placed me in Ravenclaw, and I could not agree more. Luna Lovegood for the win, and Ravenclaw pride all day long over here. So please feel free to comment what your Hogwarts house is, And on that matter, what your favorite character is. Favorite Weasley character even. I do love the twins dearly, but I really do love book Ginny for sure as well. Not movie Ginny, but book Ginny. She was a badass. That is one thing that people have always called me out on, is like why I say I don't like Ginny. But again, I have to specify, it is movie Ginny that I do not like, and it's nothing against Bonnie Wright, it's just that they did not give her enough in the movies for me to really pull for Ginny. Weasleys aside though, my other favorite characters of the series include Luna Lovegood, as mentioned before, Remus Lupin, and none other than Draco Malfoy. And yes, that is largely because I'm a Tom Felton fangirl. At the same time, I loved his character in the books, and there's so much more to Draco Malfoy than, "My father will hear about this." You know, like, he's very smart, and he's sassy, and there's just so many points of Draco Malfoy that you do not get to see in the movies. That is why I always recommend reading the books, because they can tell you so much more. And of course, it's near impossible to do a perfect interpretation of a book to film, but I love the Harry Potter films with all of my heart. There's no way that they could include everything, and I think they certainly did do the series justice. And I am not in that group of fans, and I'm not saying a lot of fans are like this, but I do know some who down people for not reading the books, and you know, that's their choice. They're missing out, but I don't say that they're not a true fan for not reading the books. You can be a fan of something without knowing every single bit of information about it. And for the future of this series, I do have some videos planned out that I'm definitely going to have for Fan Art Fridays, but I am more than willing to go to the comments section, so if anyone wants to see something in particular, it may not even be something that I'm a fan of, but I could get hooked into something else. It's happened before. So please feel free to leave comments on what you would like to see in Fan Art Fridays in the future. And I will be offering a 5x7 print set of Fred and George in my Etsy shop, Never Stop Drawing, immediately following this video, so feel free to check that out if you're interested.